It's akin to, I left. She was the woman who stood by Elvis Presley when the spotlight started to burn instead of shine. I last saw him in San Francisco. Linda Thompson kept quiet for years, never generating money or selling stories. Linda is finally speaking the truth years after Elvis's death, surprising the media. More raw, delicate, and profound, not just another ex-girlfriend report. The story is about the storyteller and the woman who loved him when no one else did. Before entering Graceland, Linda Thompson was a star. Her nickname was the girl who walked into Graceland. She was more than pretty. She earned Miss Tennessee in 1972 and was noted for her poise, intelligence, and depth. Though from a modest Southern background, she carried herself with the grace of someone who has experienced grief and hope. She was loyal and had objectives beyond the title behind her beauty pageant grin. Hollywood noticed her. She was in Nashville. Elvis Presley's situation was different. The July private movie screening in Memphis brought them together. Finally invited by a buddy, she wasn't supposed to be there. Elvis in and altered the room. Linda did not faint. She wasn't drawn to the attention. She looked at him closely, but it wasn't the king. The man seemed exhausted, not just from driving or concentration. Inside, he looked exhausted, not because of his stardom, but because he seemed lonely under all that glitter. That person had to not weary him by needing him back. Linda claimed they spoke till dawn without plots or walls that night. She heard his childhood recollections he hadn't shared in years. He discussed his mother and aging anxieties. She didn't praise or regale him. All she did was listen with warmth, laughter, and honesty. Elvis called her the light he'd been looking for when she left the next morning. Although Graceland was shining, ominous shapes were emerging. It wasn't fairy tale to adore the king. Linda moved into Graceland soon after meeting. I felt like I'd entered a fairy tale. Wealth, love, and music played constantly. Gold albums lined the mansion. Laughter filled the halls, and each room felt like a living museum of grandeur. Linda soon discovered that things were harder than the chandeliers and silk curtains suggested. Graceland was a jail, fortress, and mansion. After becoming his girlfriend, she became his rock, confidant, caregiver, and nurse. Elvis slept little. Bad dreams plagued him. In a rare interview, she stated, "Sometimes I'd stay up all night just to make sure he was okay." He woke up sweating and experiencing strange dreams. He took medicines that numbed him to settle down. She rubbed his back and prayed to soothe him. He was like an overgrown child. Linda would comfort him and put him to bed. Late-night laughter, spontaneous melodies, and whispered prayers brought enormous joy. They danced barefoot or watched vintage movies in the living room. However, darkness returned every time. His eyes showed grief that fame couldn't hide. She loved him because he was broken and seeking peace, not because he was the king of rock and roll. Some couldn't see what she saw. She witnessed his prescription drug dependence, which wasn't widely known until after his death. Linda never instructed him. She never stated she'd depart. She held his hand through every mistake, sleepless night, and quiet apology. He said, "I was there to love him, not to fix him, not to leave him." She held on as long as she could, hoping love would bring him back. Love has boundaries, and Linda was gently approaching them. Her real reason for leaving Elvis. Fans claimed she left Elvis for fame or another guy for years. They witnessed a gorgeous young woman leave Graceland, thinking she was motivated, not sad. Some remarked she used him for power. Some thought she couldn't manage a renowned partner. Linda never stopped telling stories. Since she wasn't guilty, she let them leave and chose silence over news. Respect motivated. She never intended to profit from his popularity or make their relationship tabloid-worthy. She knew they had something true, no matter how shattered. Finally, she left to survive. "I didn't want to be a widow at 27, she tearfully said. Elvis's 1976 health was a time bomb. He was getting worse, not just fatigued. He was usually weary, had mood swings and energy decreases, and felt emotionally alone. She said, "I felt like I was watching him slowly disappear," bringing up memories. Some days he barely spoke. Other days he'd collapse mid-conversation. Sometimes she didn't recognize her lover when she glanced at him. She begged him to rest, clean, and fight. Promised to do it. Despite his good intentions, his pledges came apart like his music. Their story had no villain. It had time, addiction, and grief. No, she didn't leave angry. There was no fight or emotional goodbye. She packed quietly, sobbed quietly, and kissed his cheek before leaving. Like the door, she left her heart open. Someone said, "If you ever need me, I'll be here." Still, she never left. What followed revealed their friendship's strength. Her unforgettable call, Elvis called a few months after Linda left Graceland. Late at night, old thoughts and regrets could be heard over Be-Light. Quiet. An unexpected call was like hearing a ghost when she answered. She didn't expect a response that way. Or then, his voice was flat and lacked flair and drama. The voice was weaker and worn. Charm, bravado, and legend were gone. He spoke like an enraged guy with no more defenses. It seemed like his hands were shaking from holding everything together. He was exhausted psychologically and physically. The weight of his words suggested sadness. His words hit her hard. "I know now that you were the only one who really cared about me." Linda concluded. That call broke me. She suffered quietly for months, unsure if leaving him had wounded or released him. She believed their separation would heal him and give him a reason to stand up. She hoped her absence encourages him to fight. Instead, she heard an almost gone man. He didn't sound determined. He seemed to know the end was close, but couldn't get away. She urged him to seek therapy, and that she believed in him. Elvis Presley died weeks after promising to try. Linda would always remember that last conversation, why she was silent for so long. Others wrote a tell-all, but Linda waited years. She had several chances. Newspapers contacted and offered hefty checks with promises of front pages, bestseller lists, and talk shows. Broken hearts, scandals, and Graceland secrets could have made her rich, but she didn't. Linda declined since Elvis wasn't important. He gave his everything until nearly nothing remained. He was smart, delicate, and hurt. She saw him as more than king. During the blackout, he held her hand and grieved with her. Years later, she whispered, "I wanted to protect what little dignity he had left." She didn't respond to others' comments. Linda remained calm while ex-lovers and insiders lied, blew up meetings, and made him look like a cartoon excess. She chose grace. The truth was her secret garden, quiet, holy, and unbroken. Being quiet doesn't mean you're gone. No, she didn't forget or refuse to talk. She finally mentioned him in A Little Thing Called Life in 2016, over 40 years after his death. She didn't write to shock, blame, or spread rumors then. To honor, she wrote, "He was human, and that's what made him divine," she said. "I loved him through good and bad." The controversial nature of her statements kept them from the headlines. They generated waves by caring. Everyone saw that behind every symbol lies a lovely broken person. Her words lacked impact. They helped him recover and transformed Elvis fans' perception of him. Graceland walls held a secret. Linda confirmed that Elvis and she had discussed aging together. It was more than whispered idle talk in the dark. It was honest, hopeful, and open. They wished for a simpler life without travel or fame. He wanted to settle down, she said in her memoirs, have another child, live more quietly. Elvis relaxed and talked about a near future during those emotional times. He wanted to live in the country, fish in the mornings, write songs alone, and rest without being watched. He wanted a second marriage and a child. Manhood, not a dream, was his goal. Elvis's dreams were always out of reach because he grieved alone about his anxieties and rarely told anyone. Getting forgotten and dying alone in a house full of people who loved his fame more than them loved him was his darkest dread. He worried about dying young. Linda stated his terror never subsided. She did her best to help. She recommended changing his diet, reading spiritual books, and meditating late at night. It worked sometimes. He laughed, smiled, and danced. Light would return. Nothing could settle him down long term. He never ignored her despite the hardships. Despite his agitation, he trusted her. He relaxed like never before. They shared private secrets, wounds, and worries. Nobody knew what they told each other. That pledge she wouldn't violate was one of her secrets until now. Elvis advised her, "Don't let them make me into a joke." Before she departed Graceland, voice cracked when he spoke it, half begging, half giving up. He anticipated rumors, jokes, and everyone's attention on his downfall. He worried that people would remember his collapse, not his music, movies, or magic, but how he looked swollen, acted erratically, or took drugs. She looked him in the eyes and vowed not to let that happen. She didn't. She remained silent for decades while others gave journalistic accounts. She no longer feels sorry for him when talking about him. His intelligence, wit, and kindness were remarkable. She told People magazine about his odd sense of humor, his scrawled messages about the house, and his childhood joy of watching cartoons. She said he was upset. Who isn't? Without obligation, she took care of his photo because she loved him. True, eternal love. She grinned when asked if she loved him less. Elvis taught her about losing a loved one. Linda Thompson is 74. A mother, writer, survivor, and gentle example. She is. She was glamorous in Hollywood and on red carpets. She raised 2 boys and earned an Emmy for songwriting. She fell in love again with Bruce, now Caitlyn Jenner and an Olympic gold medalist, and later, David Foster, a famous music producer. Her relationships had ups and downs, but none were like Elvis's. Elvis was more than a lover. He crushed her heart for the first time and taught her much. She remarked, "He taught me what devotion costs and what it looks like. That kind of love endures." Sometimes she returns to Graceland, silently and without warning, away from the cameras. She traverses familiar halls, Late-night laughter was common there. She stops where he played religious music on the piano until daybreak and presents him flowers, not the icon, because love endures. It only changes form. The main truth, Linda Thompson never changed. Elvis's values, she returned its heart. She informed everyone that beneath the rhinestones was a difficult, gorgeous, and troubled man who wanted to be noticed. Finally, through her eyes. Comment below if this story moved you. Elvis wanted what remembered about him. Remember to share, like, and follow for more original articles.